Hey everyone, it's Rob Ryder. We want to know, and this is based on information that comes out of different documents on the post office, um, and what their duties are, and what we're supposed to do if we see things that aren't the way they're supposed to be, and yada yada yada. And so a lot of it comes out of Title 39 of the U.S. Code, which is the Postal Service. So that's the law of the Postal Service. But a lot of things we're going to look at today also come out of this thing called the Postal Operations Manual. So we have a law. Now how are we going to enforce the law, or how are we going to run the system? Well, that's in the manual, Operations Manual. So it's kind of a mixture of both. But let's see what we have here to look at. So in Title 39, it does say at Section 3003, mail bearing a fictitious name or address. Upon evidence satisfactory to the Postal Service that any person is using a fictitious, false, or assumed title or address in conducting, promoting, carrying on, or assisting therein by means of Postal Service of the United States in activity in violation of the sections of 1302, 1341, and 1342 of Title 18, it may, then it went on. So, of course, Title 18 is another U.S. code. It's the criminal code. This is the postal code that says, upon evidence satisfactory to the Postal Service, not to the Department of Justice or somebody else, to the Postal Service, that it may do A, B, C, D, and E, and those are all listed on 3003. But what are these things? Well, like U.S. Code 1342 would be 18 USC 1342. I should put that on here. 18 U.S. Code 1342. It says, whoever for the purpose of conducting, promoting, or carrying on by means of the Postal Service any scheme or device mentioned in 1341, which is another section of law, that's the fraud and swindles, that's the wonderful one, of any or any other unlawful business, uses or assumes, or requests to be addressed by any fictitious, false, or assumed title, name, or address other than his own proper name, or takes or receives from the post office or authorized depository for mail matter any letter, postal package, or other mail addressed to such fictitious, false, assumed title, name, or address, yada yada yada, hey, you broke the law. So if you're getting any mail in any name other than your proper name, Robert Allen Ritlewski, for myself, well then there's a crime happening, and you could be a participant because you're taking the mail. So we don't want to break the law. Hey, we didn't know, we made a mistake. We're going to bring it to your attention. But let's take a quick look at what some of this mail might look at that isn't necessarily legal now. So the Michigan Department of Treasury, Lansing, Michigan, they sent mail to Ritlewski Robert A. Well, that isn't me. I don't know where they got that address, but we need to get that figured out. That's incorrect. That isn't my proper name. The friend of the court sent mail to Robert A. Ritlewski. Well, by gosh, that isn't me either. Right? I'm Robert Allen Ritlewski, and I'm in proper case, not uppercase. And the 63rd District Court, they sent it to Ritlewski. You can't see it on here. It didn't show, unfortunately. Ritlewski/Robert/Allen. Well, that's not my name either. And these guys pretend to be the District Court of the state of Michigan. And I think these were all mailed first class. If we were to read these things, it would tell us that they were all mailed first class. Right? So I shouldn't have accepted the mail on these because they weren't sent to the right person. Now, the fact that they have the wrong address, that could be my mistake, so I need to get it from the post office to make sure that I'm using what I should be using to get my mail. Here's a couple of more. Robert A. Ritlewski. Right, again, that isn't me. And Robert Allen Ritlewski. Hey, that is me, but by gosh, that isn't my zip code. It should be 49341 494-341. And, you know, that isn't a mistake. They do that shit on purpose. In fact, they had to put a sticker on with the right zip code on it to send it. But they didn't use it on the envelope. And this is the interesting thing also. See, all this shit is on the envelope. And as we'll see, postage should be on the letter. So all of these are incorrect. I'm sure you get all sorts of mail that's incorrect. And then what we need to do is get with the post office to get it figured out. And we started to make, you know, little attempts this week, and, well, they don't really want to play by the rules. So where was I when I was talking about this? Okay. Anyways, there's this standard operating procedures manual. As we'll see, it's called the notice. It's a notice 4314-C. We want to know, which replaced the PS form 4314-C consumer service card. And this stuff is supposed to be how we identify complaints to the post office. And so if you go to the post office with a complaint, they're going to tell you, well, you need to call the postal inspector, or, well, you just need to tell us, put it on an email, and we'll take care of it. No, that isn't what it says to do. It says to do it on this notice 4314-C. And so we need to do a little more research on that. But Bobby in Arizona went down Saturday, and they have no idea at the post office what a 4314-C is. Although it says here, contact the United States Postal Service and will be available in all retail lobbies as a take one for customers. So it's supposed to be there for you to take. Okay, so I am today Rob Ryder, and my email address is courtofrecord@aol.com. And if you ever want to write me, please do that way. Don't leave me anything on Rob Court of Record or on the YouTube that you want me to respond to, because I hardly ever go look at them. I just don't have time. The reason Rob Court of Record exists for me is I put on there that I did a video on YouTube. And since I can't send a bulk email saying, hey, I've done a video, if you want to watch it, here it is, I just post it on Rob Court of Record, and if you subscribe there, apparently you get a notice that there's been a video posted. And that's what it's for. Excuse me, I was told I couldn't slurp coffee and talk at the same time, so I'm trying not to, but it's almost impossible for me to do. So you may have to listen to some throat noises. Please forgive me. My email or my phone number 616-712-6179. Yeah, people call me. I do talk to them on the phone. Sometimes they're not happy with what they hear, but you know, hey, what can I say? So email me at courtofrecord@aol.com. You can call me, but please donate if you can. Thank you for those who did donate since my last video. I think I can pay my rent now. I haven't taken care of the power bill yet, or paying for the cable, or buying food, but you know, everything at a time. And I'm a prayerful man, and I have a lot of faith, and I'm sure it will happen. Donate. PayPal account is ashleyrytlewski@gmail.com. That is the name of the PayPal account. ASHLEYRYTLEWSKI@gmail.com. Or you can always use the mail. Robert Rytlewski, 10955 14 Mile Road Northeast, Rockford, Michigan 49341. Hey, I don't know if that's my proper person or not, right? The post office hasn't told me, but they will put something in a box that has that name on it. However, it may not have traveled in the mail. It may have traveled with the mail. And this is Sunday, November 8th, 2015. I'll tell you what, let me stop here. Go ahead and just cancel. Go ahead and pause and write that down. And if you find value in this, send me a little something so I can keep doing it. Now, what we learned last time, or at least for me it was new, it's like, hey, this is in the video signed, sealed, and delivered, that legal paper, it isn't the size of the paper, it's the kind of paper. It's bond paper with a watermark. And it must be white to use in court. Well, that would mean if somebody ever sends you something from court and it's not on bond paper with a watermark and white, It didn't come from the court. It's simulated legal process. If they send you anything that is trying to get you into some kind of contract, or your deed of trust, or your mortgage, your loan application, all these things are contracts that would have had to been on bond paper with a watermark. If they're not legal documents. And as I pointed out, for the last 2.5 years, they don't sign that stuff, right? So it's not a legal document anyways. If an attorney sends you something to say, hey, we're foreclosing on you, right? And he doesn't use his proper name, well, then he didn't mail it right. He needs to use the name that's on his license, right? So it's a simulated legal process. Again, these are things that we're going to say, hey, this isn't right, and we're going to have the post office do something about it. So let's identify things that are wrong. But one thing about the bond paper, okay, that may be legal paper, and you can write a contract on it, but to use it in court, you have to pay the stamp tax, the documentary tax. The federal government has its own legal paper. It looks like it's called U.S. Federal Seal Eagle Watermark Paper, and it's supposed to be used for official purposes. So, if you get something from the federal government and you hold it up and you don't see a big-ass eagle watermark, well, then it's not official business. And, we don't have to know any more than that to complain about it and get an answer from the post office. They can go back and find out from the sender who sent it, what they were trying to do. So have you ever looked at what kind of paper and in what name the mail is being sent to you? Is your deed of trust mortgage on legal paper? Did the court mail you documents in your proper name? Did they use official paper? All right, some really simple questions. This isn't difficult. This isn't about writing a document. This is pointing out their errors instead of what you're going to do. Well, that is what you're going to do. We're not going to try to answer their claim. We're going to point out their errors. So again, this is in Title 39, U.S. Code 3004. Delivery of mail to persons not residents of the place of address. So whenever the Postal Service determines that letters or parcels sent in the mail, and in the mail is different than, with the mail or out of the mail, in the mail, are addressed to places, not the residence or regular business address of person for whom they are intended, to enable the person to escape identification. They're talking about you now, right? That you didn't put the address on the envelope. That's your residence address. So you're trying to escape identification. The Postal Service may deliver the mail only upon identification of the person so addressed. We're not putting our residence on our mail. We're using this address that we've been told is our address, but it isn't the address that they're asking for. But they'll deliver to you because they're not sending it in the mail, they're sending it with the mail. Because it says in 39 U.S. Code, letters carried out of the mail. A letter may be carried out of the mails when it is enclosed in an envelope. Jeepers, that's all you got to do. The amount of postage which would have been charged on letters if it had been sent by mail is paid by stamps or postage meter on the envelope. Not on the letter, on the envelope. Your postage is supposed to go on the item that you're mailing, not on the envelope. It goes on the letter. The envelope is properly addressed. The envelope is sealed, so it cannot be taken from the face of the envelope. Any stamps on the envelope are canceled in ink by the sender, which would be the post office that sent it for you. And the date of the letter or its transmission or recipient the carrier is endorsed on the envelope in ink. Blah, 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 blah. What does all that mean? It means, hey, the shit you're getting now isn't coming in the mail, it's coming out of the mail. And we want it in the mail. In the mail. Now, the Postal Service may suspend the operation of any part of this section upon mail route where the public interest requires the suspension. So we tell them we don't want any mail unless it's in the mail. Send it back. 37th Congress, Session 3. This is where this stuff started to come in. This is 1863. Be it further enacted that maximum standard weight for a single rate of letter postage is 1/2 ounce dupios, which is basically ounces and pounds, not grams and kilograms. So the single rate of letter postage is 1/2 ounce. So, as we're going to see, they want you to put 1 ounce of postage on things, and so we just need to make sure that we're following the rules. I just point that out. Is it the single rate? Is it the first class rate? Maybe they didn't have first class back then. They don't talk about it, but the first class rate is 49 cents for 1 ounce of mail. Okay, section 22, it said, and be it further enacted, that the rate of postage on all domestic letters transmitted in the mail of the United States, but delivered through the post office or its carriers, right? So the mail in the United States is separate from post office or carriers, commonly described as local or drop letters, things you just put in the envelope, put in the the mail bin, and not exceeding 1/2 ounce in weight shall be uniform at 3 cents. And for each 1/2 ounce, a fraction therefore, additional weight charged, yada, 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 plainly affixed to such letter. That's the big thing. The postage goes on the letter for it to be domestic letters. Otherwise, it's not going to, it'll be non-domestic. And people keep saying, well, I want my stuff to go non-domestic. Well, it is now. You want it to go domestic. 23 says, and further enacted, that all letters not transmitted through the mails of the United States, non-domestic, but delivered through the post office or its carriers, commonly described local drop letters, not exceeding 1/2 ounce in weight, shall be uniform at 2 cents. So it's cheaper to send it when it's not domestic, and the postage will be affixed to the envelope of such letter. Affixed to the letter. It doesn't say anything in here about sending it in the mail, in the domestic mail, in an envelope. It doesn't say you can't use one. It says that the postage is affixed to the letter. That's what makes it domestic. So thinking this through, if you were to bring them something that has the postage on it, and they, without an envelope, they could put it in a prepaid envelope. Okay, so I mean, this is the simple things. This is what we're not doing. We need our mail to go by putting the frickin' stamp on the letter, not by putting it on the envelope. Okay, let's move on from there. That one can go away. Yes, I want to save that. So let's look at postal operation. Okay, so this is out of the postal operation manual. Because if you were to put that stamp on your letter, now it needs to be canceled, right? And for canceling and postmarking purposes, use only Postal Service supplied black ink. Now, brother up in Alpena took a piece of bond paper this week, put a stamp on it, went down to the post office and said, I want you to cancel this. I think those are the words. I have to find out exactly what he said. But they used the red stamp that they would normally put on. I did a certificate of mailing here recently, and they used a red stamp on it. But, it's not the postmark. It says it has to be black. So it has to be black. This is why we need to know their manual. You're going to be their auditor, basically. Make sure they're following the rules. And how do you do that? Well, you know their manual better than they do. So I just want to put that up front, right? That if they don't have a black postmark on it, it wasn't properly canceled. Postmark mail on address side as follows. Okay, so if you're not using an envelope, obviously the addresses have got to be on the letter. And in a court document, in the civil procedures, it says you're supposed to put the plaintiff and defendant's addresses as part of the, the thing when you fill out the plaintiff and defendant on the paperwork. And if you did, well, then it would be properly addressed. Now, we need to know what the proper addresses are, but, that's the point. You put the postmark mail on the address side as follows. And then it just depends what kind it is. So postmark showing Full name of post office, 2-letter abbreviation, and zip code for standard mail. Omit postmark if name of mailing office is shown in return address. Okay, so that's sounds like standard mail. Postmark the following types of mail, showing the full name of the post office, 2-letter state abbreviation, zip code, and date of mailing. See, this one didn't talk about the date. Now this one talks about the date. That's express mail, registered mail, parcel post. Postmark the following types of mail, showing full name of post office, 2-letter state abbreviation, zip code, date of mailing, and AM or PM. Well, there's your first class mail, except registered mail. So I believe that that's the proper one to use, right? That it should, when they put the postmark on, have the full name, the 2-letter state abbreviation, the zip code, the date, and if it was AM or PM. And it would have been properly postmarked in black for first class mail. Hand stamped postmarks. All hand stamped postmarks are made with black ink unless authorized by stamp services. So they better show you the authorization or it better be in black ink. Special materials with postmarks may be requested. Plain cards, plain, P-L-A-I-N, not plain, but plain cards. Slips of paper, blank envelopes. Postal Service employees may not place postmarks for customers on plain slips of paper, plain cards, or plain or blank envelopes without unused postage equaling or exceeding the first class mail first ounce rate. So that's what the brother did. He put first class mail, 49 cents on the envelope or on the paper, slip of paper, and took it down to be postmarked, and they did it in red ink, and it says that because it was hand stamped, it should have been in black ink. They didn't use the right seal. Black ink for canceling postmarking purposes. Use only Postal Service applied black ink. That's your first clue. Did they use black ink? Handback, mailback services. Postmarks should be used to provide the following philatelic services whenever they are available. And by the way, this 231.4 and all these things are just the sections that you would find it in the Postal Operation Manual. But this is good. Now, this is interesting, right? Handback services. When a customer personally presents an addressed or unaddressed envelope, postal card, or other item described in 231.63. Was this 231.63? Yes, it was. Blank papers, right? So, or the things here. The Postal Service employee must examine the item to ensure it is clearly intended for philatelic purposes, which is like stamp collecting. Although if somebody else can really tell me exactly what that is, that would be wonderful. I know it's for that, but it doesn't cover all of mail. Because here's the important part. Bill payments, tax returns, applications, and or other date-sensitive material cannot be handed back. It doesn't mean they can't take it. They can't hand it back. Only after careful examination should philatelic items be postmarked and handed back to the customer collector. So you're supposed to take your bill, your tax return, any kind of application, any other date-sensitive material, whatever it is that they sent you or whatever you're sending that's date-sensitive, not in an envelope, but with the postage affixed to the side with the address on it. And because you're always putting your address on things, right? So the address is there. And then they can't hand it back. It doesn't say they can't mail it, as we'll see. That's what 2's about, right? But they can mail it. But if you wanted to get stamped paper to use in a court case, well, they could hand that back to you. Because they're going to just cancel the stamp. And there is a way to do pre-cancel stamps that we're going to look at that we should be able to do. But to do that, you have to have a permit from the post office. And I really believe that to be the correct thing to do. Get the permit from the post office, and then there'll be no question that you are who you say you are. Let's continue on. So the envelope, card, or other item, right? Bill payment, tax returns, applications, the things they can't hand back, right? First of all, the envelope, card, or other item does not enter the mail stream. All such materials requesting postmarking must bear uncanceled postage at the applicable first-class mail rate. If customers wants the mail postmarked item, it wants to mail a postmarked item, it must be trade or bagged separately and flagged non-machinable to avoid over postmarked in processing. So you would give them your tax return, you would give them your bill payment, utility payment, whatever it is. They put it on, they send it out. Right? They're going to set it in a tray and they're going to put it in the bag, and the bag is actually what the mail is. It's a mail bag. Mail is a form of protection. Some more. First-class mail. All mailable matter presented to the Postal Service and properly prepaid may be entered as first-class mail. Regulations require that handwritten or typed mail, bills and statements of account, actual and personal correspondence, and, right, now this is different, and all mail sealed or otherwise closed against inspection be sent as first-class mail. So again, you take them handwritten, typed materials, bills, statements of accounts, stamp on it, give it to them. It's going to go as first-class mail. It doesn't need to be in an envelope. If that's what your concern is whether it's in an envelope or not, well then they could put it in an envelope and put prepaid on it, but they would have to do that. And I just believe that they can do that. I don't know that I've actually read it that way, but you think this stuff through enough, that would be one way to do it. Registered mail. Now, should we use registered mail or not? Because it's going to change the postmark. I don't think it matters, because the important thing about using the registered mail, and not certified mail, registered mail, provides the additional protection for valuable and important mail. See, this is going in the mail, not out of the mail. All mailable matter prepaid with postage at first-class mail or priority rates may be registered in accordance with DMMS 911. So you still put the stamp on it. And then you tell them you want it registered. Registered mail provides a receipt to the sender, right? That's your proof that you mailed it. Special security between shipping points, and a record acceptance and delivery maintained by the U.S. Postal Service. You just made the United States Postal Service your uninterested or having no interest in it, right? Third-party witness. And at the option of the mailer, an additional fee indemnity in case of loss or damage. Postal employees are not permitted to assist customers in preparation and sealing a mail to be registered. Return receipts and restricted delivery are provided for additional fees in accordance with whatever. Now, they can't provide any assistance, but it doesn't mean they can't tell you, because this is all about a procedure, right? But as you can see, you have to prepay with postage. You got to put your damn postage stamp on the document and take it to them and say you want to send it registered mail according to DMS 911, and have DMS 911 there with you to make sure that they're following their orders. Audit them. Endorsement. Postal employees at receiving retail service counters must enter the mail they accept, must ensure the mail they accept is properly endorsed. Details on requirements of canceling, postmarking each class of mail, endorsing mail, and each type of service are found in appropriate chapters of the DMM. Requirements for philatelic purposes are explained in Chapter 2. So you have to go hunt that. But what it does say about endorsing is only authorized endorsements, first-class mail, insured mail, certified mail, military order mail, may be placed on mail pieces by postal employees. Endorsements of any type are never to be placed on philatelic mail, which is supposed to be for collectors. Because if you're just putting it in a court, you may not be mailing it. You just want to go put it into a court case, or you want to take it as part of your contract, or, that kind of stuff. So it doesn't need to be mailed. You're just making it, putting it on stamped paper so it can be used in court. Canceling. Render all stamps except pre-canceled stamps unusable at the point of origin. This is to be accomplished by cancellation or strike-through with daubers. It's like some kind of stamp. On stamps placed where canceling equipment is unable to reach. On philatelic mail pieces, only authorized cancelizations must appear on the item. No other marking or type shall be placed on philatelic mail by postal employee. Okay, so all they can do is put the right one on. They do any other one, they just committed mail fraud. And so Wayne is his name, and up in Alpena, he took it to the post office and they put red for a postmark. Well, they just committed mail fraud. Right? It's supposed to be black. They didn't file their own orders. We want to file a complaint. We really want you to fix it and take care of all our other problems, or we're going to file a complaint. But we'll just keep filing complaints against you until you do it right. General definition. A philatelic postmark is an official postal postmark that contains the post office name, city, state, zip code, and date, month, day, year of canceling post office. Okay, a philatelic postmark is an official postmark that contains the post office name, city, state, zip code, and date, month, day, year. And we saw that for first class mail, it was full name of the post office, 2-letter abbreviation, zip code, date. Didn't say anything about the city. It didn't say anything about an abbreviation. It said the state, so that should be, the full name. And the month, day, and year that it was done. So if you take a blank paper, that's the one that should be on it. If they're going to mail it, right, this 443.31 is the one that should be on it. So Wayne should have got the official. A philatelic postmark is an official postal postmark that contains the post office name, the city, the state, the zip code, and the date. That would have been proper on a blank piece of paper. Postmarking for philatelic purposes is provided at the request of collectors or philatelic cover services for postmarking outside ordinary mail processing. And we don't plan on mailing it. In this case, you don't plan on mailing it. You're going to take it down and put it in a court case. You're just paying the stamp tax. The service requires special procedures and arrangements so that Postal Service operations and services are not disrupted. The service may entail hand stamping requests, either on hand back or mail back basis, and the holding of mail for postmarking. So you want it handed back, hand stamped, with the official philatelic postmark. And this is section 231.1 of the Postal Operation Manual. Hand stamp postmarks, circular hand stamp postmarks with or without killer bars, may be provided upon request at post offices or station or branch offices. So they have them there. The postmarks are available each day the office is open for business. Postmarking request must be at the post office offering the service on the date of postmark to qualify for the service. Complaints. So here we go. So they won't do that stuff. Well, what do we do? Well, in the same manual, at 164.4, it says postmasters and station and branch managers ensure that their offices comply with comment and complaint resolution procedures. Ensure that all employees coming in contact with the public on a regular basis, that would be the retail clerk, the dude at the window, or the people carrying your frickin' mail, right? The city or rural carriers, or their supervisors, or the installation managers, have available at their workstations enough. Notice 4314C, we want to know for customers. And when Bob went down to the post office, they wanted a person there, including the supervisor, who knew what the hell that was. That's a good sign. They don't want us to know that this exists. Right, this is your official complaint. This gets put into a book, as we'll see. Prominent display, the 4314C in lobbies and book and box sections, business mail entry units, and other business service areas at all times. They didn't have any. Maintain one or more customer complaint logs. Oh, well, that would be like a docket entry. It would be official if it went into that book. So they don't want you to do this. And if you if you just Google the word Notice 4314-C, you'll find all these different hits of things you can read about. But I have yet to find the form to look at. But they can't say it doesn't exist, right? These are all from the USPS, Postal Reporter, PRC Gov, yada, yada, yada. There's all sorts of them. So, they can't say they don't exist. But it says in there that this replaced the PS Form 4314-C Consumer Service Card. The new notice offers customers multiple choices for contacting the United States Postal Service and will be available in all retail lobbies as a take one for customers. That's our first complaint. They're not out in the lobby. Provide the following options, right? You can speak to the postmaster, management staff. You can make a phone call. You can visit their website. Local postal office personnel can expect to receive and resolve local customer issues from the following avenues: person-to-person contact, telephone calls, issue received in the district consumer affairs office, issues retrieved from the postal office messaging system. Goes on and on and on. You can read it yourself, but when you get down to it, for customers who are dissatisfied with the options provided on 4314-C, or if you can't find one, I would think, right, you can offer, they're talking now, this is talking to the postal employee, following additional options once you have made every effort to assist the customer. Provide the customer with the phone number to the local district consumer affairs office. And so Bob asked for that phone number, and he got it. It was just, it was Saturday, so he can't call yet. Or advise the customer to write to Consumer Advocate, U.S. Postal Service. Okay? It didn't say this, but this is the other one. United States of America Postal Regulatory Commission. If you Google them, you'll see they have a formal complaint manual that says how to do it. So there's any number of ways to contact them, but they don't have this form, this 4314-C form. We want to know, right? It wasn't sitting out on the counter. Okay, and why is this important? Because now some of the things that we may want to complain about, right? Because we're not using the right address. All mail not bearing, now this is a DMM manual, I think it is, Domestic Mail Manual 602 addressing, Section 1.3 address elements. All mail not bearing a simplified address must bear a delivery address that contains at least the following elements in this order from the top line. Right? So simplified means if it says occupant or something like that on it, the way I understand it. But if it's addressed to you, then it needs to be this way. Must bear the delivery address that contains at least the following elements in this order from the top line. Intended recipient's name or other identification. Private mailbox designator and number if the mail piece is addressed to a commercial mail receiving agency. Street and number, street and number, street and number, not number and street, street and number. Include the apartment number or use the post office box number or general delivery or rural route or highway contract route designation or box number as applicable. It didn't say use the house number. It wants you to use the post office box number, the general delivery, the rural route or highway contract route designation, and box number as applicable. And give me just, shoot, I didn't have that one open. Where was that? Where is that? Where is that? Where is that? Here it is. Give me just 1 second here. Okay. This is publication 28 of the post office address types, and so if you're using rural route, according to the post office, it should be the name, rural route 3, box 9. That's the street and number. Highway contact number, HC 72, box 293A. The street is HC Highway Contract 72, box 293A is the number. And I mean, this just makes sense, right? They don't know what your address is. They're going to go to the next box on their route. This is all by the route. This is in what do they call this? Jeepers. Hang on here. Postal addressing standards is all I guess we can call it. Right? It doesn't really have a front page on it with a name. It just started with the contents. But the big thing was address types is found on page 55 of a 220-page document, and it shows how these are supposed to be laid out. Right? Again, we're going to audit the post office's use of their own documents. Okay, so street and number. The city is any city and state. The city is any acceptable mailing name for the 5-digit zip code serving the intended recipient as shown in the USPS city-state product. Have to go look that up, but basically it doesn't need to be any particular city. That has nothing to do with you getting the mail. What's going to get you your mail is being rural route 3, box number 92, because that's the post route from the post office headed out on a postal route. And if you're the 92nd stop on that route, well, then that's your number. And the thing about using the house and so forth, we're going to see, well, that, if it hadn't been approved, you're not supposed to be doing it. Zip codes are required on priority, mail express, commercial, first class mail, commercial, right? Not personal, but commercial, which would be you sending something to a company, I guess. First class package service, periodical, standard mail, package services, So official mail, business reply mail, merchandise, all these things need to have them on there. But it needs to have the 5-digit zip code. All right, I don't think it has to have the zip plus 4 because it would say that. It just says zip code, so it's the 5-digit zip code. Unless required above, zip codes may be omitted in a single price, first class mail, including priority mail, single piece price standard, and pieces bearing simplified address. Right, but not commercial first class mail. Canceling. Render all stamps except pre-cancel stamps unusable at the point of origin. Pre-cancel stamps. Collectors may buy pre-cancelled stamps, yada, yada, yada. Pre-cancelled stamps. Well, they do have these things called pre-cancelled stamps, and we could use them. But to use them, you have to have a... Why did I do that? You have to have applied for the permit, which is your Form 3615. So we're going to take a minute and go look at a couple forms that have to do with not only this 3615, but because they ask for the street and number. And if you can't give them that, well, you're not giving the right address. So we need to know what our street and number is. This is utmost importance. And don't let them tell you it's just your house number. Make them show you, or you want to fill out the form to complain, and they're going to say, well, we don't have the form. Well, then we're going to have to make a phone call and find out why they don't have the form. It's just the way it is. It's every step is it got its own little trial and tribulation, and that's what this one will be. So let's look at that form. So this is the form you fill out to be able to use all sorts of things like business reply and so forth. And I think that we should be using it for this reason. See, it says male owner, individual or company name. If I put in Robert Allen Ritlewski, which sounds the same no matter if it's an uppercase or proper case, I'm the male owner. Right? Because I own the company. Robert Allen Ritlewski, uppercase, is my property. I'm its owner. Or if I have it in my proper name, it's still me. So, this would tie the two together. This is my point. It's going to put them in the same jurisdiction. Male owner, date, application signature, right? And so you would print your name, your proper name, Robert Allen Ritlewski. You don't scribble. That's your mark. Print your name. That's your signature. But the address, street and number, street and number, street and number. Didn't ask for your house number and whatever they call your road. It wants a street and number. So I got to work on this a little bit to see how we're going to do it. But it says that the applicant must enter the two forms of identification required when submitting this application. One form of ID must contain a photograph of the applicant. Well, we could say that would be our driver's license, but our driver's license doesn't have the street and number. We have our mailing address on it, so it doesn't have the right address. Right? We got to get the street and number first. The applicant must enter the two ID numbers on line 8 and 8B. So we need a better description of what that means on this form from the post office. What are the available types of identification? Because Social Security cards, credit cards, and birth certificates are not acceptable forms of identification. What the hell's that about? Right? So, well, now that you've told me what isn't, you must tell me what is. That's the way I look at it. But you would use this, permit for imprint authorization, pre-canceled stamp authorization, which is what I want it for. Mailer pre-canceled postmark pre-printed rate marking authorization, right? So, because I just want to put a pre-canceled stamp on a document and put it into court, I don't want to have to go to the post office. Business reply mail, you have to have this for, right? So that's what it is. This is the form. Not very hard to do, except it asks for the street number, and we don't know what that is yet. Another thing that asks for the street number is the change of address form for your driver's license. Right? When you applied for a driver's license, I'm sure you're supposed to, it says street and address on it, but see, it asks for the residence address. And remember where it said if you don't have the residence address on the mail, they're not going to mail it to you. Improper residence address, because they consider you trying to avoid to hide your identity. Residence address must be included street and number, or rural route and box number. City, zip, county, mailing address, street and number. So, for that reason, I need the street and number, not number and street. And the post office has it, and they can tell me what it is. Now, this is what you would fill out if you're going to change your address and voter registration, right? So this is how you would get your proper residence to be on your driver's license, because right now when you hand them your driver's license, it has your mailing address on it, and that's not where you live. So you're basically lying to the government about where your residence is. And if you were going to use this to register to vote, right, it says B, to register to vote, you must be a United States citizen, at least 18 years of age, and a resident of Michigan and the city township where you are applying to register to vote. Are you a citizen of the United States? Are you a citizen of the United States of America? Well, no, I'm not. United States of America, the way you see it here with the not being capitalized, that is the jurisdiction of King George III and his successors. The being, part of the proper name, so the being capitalized, the T, that is the style of the Confederacy as it's pointed out in the Articles of Confederation. The style of the Confederation shall be the United States of America. That's a proper name. But so is United States of America. It's just not where you want to be. So I'd say, well, I'd have to click no. And then I'd say, well, if you put no, do not complete Part C or D, as you cannot register to vote. And I would stop doing it. Say, okay, well, I'm done. But when you look closely, C is these two things here. And then D is sign at both X's. Right? But this X down here isn't D. And this is what I want to do. I am a citizen of the United States. I am a resident of the state of Michigan. I am 18. And I authorize you to cancel any other registration you find to the contrary. And I would sign this blank here. Again, you print your name so that it can be read. Robert Allen Ritlewski. But I wouldn't sign, I can't do C or D. I can only do the one that isn't C or D, and that's this one down here. Which I will do just as soon as I figure out what my street and number is. And I need that from the post office. Alrighty now then. Well, that takes us through this. I did want to show you what a pre-cancel stamp looked like, because I can, so let me do that real quick. But you can't use these unless you have the you cannot use these unless you have the permit. Now in India, people get their identification from the post office. And so it's like, oh, this is kind of like your identification, at least with the post office when you fill out that form. Who's at this particular street and number, right? What's your residence? Come on, you going to open up or what? Okay, so here we go, right? This is a 49-cent pre-cancel stamp, and see it's got a line going through the 49. Well, that isn't a postmark cancellation, right? That's called a pen cancellation. And as I pointed out in the video last time, you do pen cancellations on stamps to be used for fiscal reasons, not postal reasons, such as paying the stamp tax. So you could just put this on your document, except you're not authorized to use it unless you have the permit from the post office. And this permit doesn't cost anything to get. You just have to fill out the form. And they have to verify it. And again, I'm talking about the PS 3615, right? This form. Right, that needs to be verified because the verification by the postal employee completing the application. So when they verify it, they're going to agree that's where you live. And now you have the post office as your witness that that's your residence. That's what this address is here. We got to put our residence on there. We're trying to get the post office to be our witness. Right now, they're witnessing that we're not doing it properly. Okay, part 2. A few more things, right? Just things that we should know that I've come across, at least that I thought I should know. Mail. What is mail? Well, mail is armor, that which defends the body. But mail is also a bag for the conveyance of letters and papers, particularly letters conveyed from one post office to another under public authority in the U.S. mail. Right? It didn't say in an envelope, it said in a bag. Now these are, again, are out of the same Postal Operation Manual, 631.43, local ordinances. If a customer chooses not to erect a curbside box because of a local, city, county, or state ordinance prohibiting the installation of mailboxes at the curb, because you're actually putting it in the right-of-way, because the right-of-way goes from the center line to the property line of the owner, although it's still his property, but they take the first 30-some feet from the center line, or something like that. Well, somewhere in there, you're going to stick this post with a box on it. You just put something in the right-of-way. So there could be an ordinance against that, and there probably is, and we've never complied with it. And so, that's one way to keep a lien against your property, because you never went to get the permit or whatever to put the post in the right of way. However, the way they get around that is with central delivery service. Post office box or general delivery service is another way. Right? You go to the post office, you have general delivery. So the central delivery is that, them things you see in a lot of subdivisions where all the mail is at the end of the road and everybody goes down to the big box thing and gets their mail out of it. But it says the respective conforming address should be displayed inside the boxes and visible only to the carrier and customers when accessing that receptacle. So you should be able to find your proper address inside your box, is the way I read this. I don't know that it's in there, but that's the way I read it. But I bet you it's on the back side, because when the guy comes, he's got this big tray of mail, right? And they're just numbers. They don't have your street address on it. They got like box number addresses, and they just start shoving them into boxes. So Bobby in Arizona said he kind of been watching how they do this stuff. He said, yeah, they just go to the back, open it up, and boom, 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 boom. Right? There's no hesitation. 23 goes in 23, so I'm sure they're marked on his side where the postman puts it in. I don't know that it's been marked because it said should be, didn't say it has to be. USPS does not assign addresses. However, the sequential order of any centralized delivery equipment is subject to USPS approval. For security and privacy, mailer associations or customer groups may use another alphanumeric identification system on the outside of the receptacles that is not part of or used in the mailing address. What's on the outside isn't what's on the inside. General delivery. This is very interesting, right? General delivery is for assist customers with no fixed address and no identification. Don't know who you are. Nobody knows who you are in general delivery, and if that's how you want to live your life, that's up to you. Some people don't want to be registered. Mary and Joseph were registered. They went to Bethlehem to register for the census. There's nothing wrong with being registered. Jesus was circumcised. He was registered in the book. That's why he knew, his lineage all the way back to the beginning. Nothing wrong with being registered. Right? Just registered properly. And then make the government your protector instead of your persecutor. Rural addresses. Now, okay, this is for somebody like me who lives out here in the country a bit. In 656, rural addresses, it says street names and house numbers. Postmasters should authorize the use of street names and house numbers assigned by local officials if street signs are erected and house numbers are displayed. Well, there's the big question. Did the postmaster authorize the use of street names and house numbers? Because it says if street signs are erected and house numbers are displayed. Well, I don't know what that means exactly. Right? So they would really have to explain that to me. Because the name on the street isn't necessarily the name of the street. It could be an assumed name. We talked about that in another video. But the postmaster has to authorize it. So did they do it or not? And so how do you get a hold of the postmaster? I should go through that real quick right now. And then we'll pick back up on this. So let me just do it right here. This looks like, see, everybody, all these government agencies, they have their way of doing emails, right? So USPS.gov, that's the ending of the emails for anybody that works for the post office, right? At USPS.gov. I don't know if that would have got, I guess it looked like that. Okay. So now the question is, well, what do you put at the beginning of that to send somebody an email? And as it turns out, the way they do it is like this. Robert, period, A, middle initial, last name, at. So if you can find the person's name and put it in, well, that's how Bobby got an address for the supervisor of his local post office. She gave him her address, and it was her first name, period, middle initial, period, last name, at USPS.gov. Well, that format should work for anybody at the post office. Now you can go online to the USPS website and put in postmaster. Well, hell, we'll just do it. We got time. Postmaster of so I did postmasters of post office and postmasters by city, USPS. Put in the city, Rockford, state, Michigan. Search. All right, Rockford Post Office, Kenton County, Michigan. This is from the beginning of time. The very first postmaster was 1848. You can go to the bottom. Kathy J. Hansen is the postmaster. Now, the interesting thing, they have these guys that are officers in charge, too, so I don't know who that is. But I see that Phil isn't using a middle initial. But Fred, who was the postmaster before, he had a middle initial, and he was also the officer in charge, and he had a middle initial again. So, you know, this is how they do it. So there's the name. Put that here at, right, USPS.gov, and you should be able to email the postmaster. And that'll shake them up a bit when people start emailing them directly. Instead of dealing with the counter troll that won't give you the answers you want, go to the postmaster and say, hey, did you authorize the use of street names and house numbers? I need to have a copy of the authorization to use street names and house numbers as my address, or give me my street and number. So where street names and house numbers have not been assigned or are not displayed as required, assign numbers to all boxes on a route in numerical sequence in the order served. Well, that's what rule route is. Rule route number whatever. Right? That's easy. Curbside mailboxes. Manufacturers, mailboxes designed and manufactured to be erected at the edge of a roadway or curbside street to be served by a carrier from the vehicle on any street, rule, or highway contract route. Well, again, right, this is a rule route. This is the way it should be done if it's a rule route. So if they didn't authorize the use of house numbers and street names, then it needs to be the rule route. Or it needs to be the highway contract number and box number. And 293A is just the 293rd, 293rd box on that route. Assign numbers to all boxes on a route in numerical sequence in the order served. And that's how the guy's tray is set up when he's bringing your mail. Postal payment and, okay, this is another DMM manual. Why did I have this one? The print and return address must be included in local addresses that include a street address. All right, so when you're filling things out and you have to use a return address, I don't know that's in this thing. I think I'm looking at the wrong part right now. It does say that because you have to use a return address if you're doing official mail or lots of other things, and the return address is the same as the delivery address, which means you have to have the street and number. Street and number. Okay, I think that was about it for this one. Okay. I can close that. What else was there? Okay. Most of that had to do with the Postal Operations Manual. These sections here are specifically out of 39 USC, 39 US Code, right? The code for the Postal Service, where it says in Section 401, the general powers of the Postal Service, to enter into and perform contracts, execute instruments, and determine the character of and necessity for its expenditures. Well, what does it mean to execute an instrument? Execute an instrument in law, the completion of a legal instrument such as a contract or deed by signing it and perhaps sealing and delivered. Signed, sealed, and delivered so that it becomes legally binding and enforceable execution. So is there anybody better, especially if you're going to mail it, than to take it to the post office, say, I need you to witness my signature on this affidavit in the 39 CFR 39 Code of Federal Regulations, Section 222. So CFR 39 CFR 222, or it could be 223. In there it talks about that the postmasters in Alaska are also notary publics. Well, why would that just be for Alaska? It didn't exclude anybody else. It didn't say and nowhere else. It just said they are. Well, that if they are, then they all are. And they can all execute your documents, and they can put a certificate on that says they witnessed your signature. And they have a process for that. And if I had found it, I could have wrote it on here, but I forgot to go to that one. Sorry. Anyways, personnel not to receive fees. An officer or employee of the Postal Service may not receive any fee or prerequisite from a patron of the Postal Service on account of the duties performed by virtue of his appointment, except as authorized by law. Well, what are his duties? His duties are to execute instruments. So that's your duty. Execute it. Administration of oaths related to postal inspection matters. Officers and employees of the Postal Service performing duties related to inspection of postal matters. Well, this is, you want to mail this. May administer oaths required to authorize by law or regulation with respect to any matter coming before them in the performance of their official duties. What's their official duties? To execute instruments. It's the general powers. The general said they can do it. And they all taken an oath of office. I do solemnly swear or affirm I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose for evasion, that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office for which I am now about to enter. That's the one all civil officers take. Right? So they're an officer of the government, and, well, they can be court-martialed, basically. A person authorized to administer oaths by the laws of the United States, including Section 22903 of Title V, I should probably go look at that, or of a state or territory, or so an officer, civil or military. Well, they are a civil officer because they took the civil oath. So this is the oath of a civil officer right here. This is out of Title II. It's the same thing that your a congressman takes. So that made them a civil officer. That means they can administer oaths, and their duty is to do whatever it says in general powers of the Postal Service, and one is to execute instruments. I'm not going any further. They can do it. Now, they're not going to want to do it necessarily. We're going to have to put the complaint in, maybe, or we're going to have to email directly that postmaster and find out, hey, why aren't your people doing what the law says to do? And what is my street and number? Now, Bobby found out that they do know what you're talking about when you talk about street and number, but they say that's for internal use only. That was one of the phone calls he's got on it, right? So they really don't want you to know, because once they do, it's game over. You change your address to the proper address, and no one's going to be able to dick with you anymore, because right now, delivery of mail to persons not residents of the place of address. Whenever the Postal Service determines the letters, parcels sent in the mail are addressed to places not the residence or regular business address of a person for whom they are intended, to enable the person to escape identification, the Postal Service may deliver the mail only upon identification of the person so addressed. We need to go identify ourselves and say, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. Because there's a lot of mail that's coming to you in the mail. You're getting stuff that's out of the mail. There's things coming to you in the mail that are getting returned to sender because we're not using the proper address. And that would be about your dividend checks and all these other things that go with your Social Security account that's being administered by somebody else because you've never properly appeared. Upon evidence satisfaction of the Postal Service that any person is engaged or conducting a scheme or any device obtaining money or property through the mail by means of false representations, well, that would be an attorney using a middle initial. Right? And you just need to, upon evidence satisfactory to the Postal Service, well, you give them a complaint to the Postal Service that the attorney is using a middle initial, which you do not believe is the same as what's on the roll of attorneys and blah, 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 things we pointed out before, and we'll see what they do with it. All right. And so, there's Title 39. There's a lot of other things in there also, but those were the biggies, I guess, for me. And we looked at this one. Yeah. Addressing, street and number. So get DMM 602, right? Just go DMM 602 addressing and find section 1.3 and take that into the post office. Say, see, it says here at C, I need my street and number. And, of course, I closed it, but where was that at? I think it was in part 2. And then go to the postal operating manual, the one we've been talking about, where it says under rural addresses, the postmaster should authorize the use of street names and house numbers assigned by local officials if street signs are erected and house numbers are displayed. And find out if they did it or not. And if not, well, then I need to have my street name and house. Have not been, then I need to have the street and number assigned to all boxes on a route in numerical sequence in the order served. Because the rural route, it starts at the post office and the first stop is stop 1 and just continues on until the route's done. And I think I'm on rural route 3. I've seen things where it says R3, so, but I don't know what my box number is. And what else did I want to show? Did I show all these things here? Motion to. I wanted to show you. I got to show you this. Something that they sent my brother-in-law in the mail, by the way. And this is from Duval County in Florida, and he was involved in a child support issue, and they had suspended his driver's license, and he's trying to get it reinstated. So this thing is called the motion to reinstate driver's licenses. He doesn't live in Duval County anymore, so he had called up there and said, hey, what do I need to do this? And so they mailed this to him. All right, so this is what they mailed to my brother-in-law. And it says, comes now, whoever it is, in this matter, and request the court to direct the Department of Revenue, Child Support Enforcement, to reinstate the suspension of my Florida driver's license. In support of this motion, I state the following as grounds. Well, they don't need it. Oh, you want us to keep the suspension on longer? That's what we'll do. Motion to reinstate driver's license is the title, but what does it actually say? What's the substance? Well, actually, the substance is to reinstate the suspension of a Florida driver's license. Well, that would be, a scheme. Because in the circuit court for the 4th Judicial Circuit in and for Duval County, Florida, is really not the name of the state court. And whether it is or isn't the question. The question is, you said it's to reinstate the driver's license, but the wording is to reinstate the suspension of the driver's license, and that's a scheme. And here's my evidence, and you show it to the postal people and say it came in the mail. Here's the frickin' envelope it came in, and see what they say. But we should never even get past opening it up. I mean, people say you shouldn't open your mail. Okay, well, if you don't open it, you should do the right thing. about not opening it and file a formal complaint, or at least the one that they talked about in this. We'll go back to that real quick. This right here, complaints, in that postal manual, 164.4, the notice 4314C. We fill that out and we've actually put a complaint into the post office. Now there is a more formal way to do it, and that was covered in United States of America Postal Regulation Commission. In fact, I think I have that here. We can look at that. That won't take that long. That's this right here. United States of America Postal Regulation Commission Rules for Complaints. Right, order number 195. I think if you just put in Postal Regulatory Commission Rules for Complaints into Google, you'll get a PDF. It'll take you to this, and most of this book is a bunch of blah 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 until the very end. It's way down here, like, you know, on page 46, where it starts with rules for complaints, and it tells you how to do it. So take a minute, read it, decide how to do it. But that's after you have done the other first, which is the, you know, we're going to try to get this 4314C. And if you can't find it, well, then you can email the postmaster at usps.gov by using the first name, period, middle initial, period, last name, at usps.gov. Okay. And because post offices are really universal, right? This is actually from the Queen. All about postmarks, the Royal Mail Guide to Postmarking Services. I haven't read the whole thing, but I think it'd be interesting to read also. But, you know, the good stuff is always right at the beginning. They tell you what a postmark is: an official mark applied by or on behalf of a postal service provider to items of mail. Postmarks are most commonly used by Royal Mail to cancel postage stamps affixed to items of mail, not to the frickin' envelope, to the mail, the thing that you're sending. And then it goes into different kinds. So postmarks in general, postal use. The counter date stamp. These date stamps are usually circular in shape. They are used at post office branches for purposes such as validating pension docket and road district disc. They are also used to cancel postage stamps on items of mail posted in a branch using premium services such as special delivery. A mail requiring counter date stamps is handled separately and is not sorted by a machine. Post office branches are most convenient places for it to be postmarked. It also gives the customer the opportunity to see that their special items are properly postmarked before they are giving a certificate of posting. So when they do this, right, this is the certified mail. When they postmark your item to be mailed, they have to give you some kind of evidence that they've done it, according to this. The date stamps are not used to cancel ordinary items of mail or philatelic items. Once an item of mail has been postmarked, it cannot be handed back to the customer, but becomes the responsibility of the Royal Mail until it is delivered to the addressee. So this is not taking them blank paper. This is taking them paper that you want to have mailed, right? So it's not for philatelic, because they would give that back to you, hand back. Now, this is the things they're going to keep. As the mail services for which standard counter date stamps are used require the customer to be given a certificate of posting, these date stamps is only available through the post office. This postmark is not available for special hand stamp centers. This postmark is not available from special hand stamp centers. And I guess that's what it looks like. 205 Old Street, London. Something. NECI and 5 July 6 Post Office. I guess that's the stamp you want to have if that is what this was just talking about, a counter date stamp. So it's going to be kind of universal in all countries, right? That you want to take your document in and have them hand stamp the document. If you want to get a stamp canceled on a piece of bond paper, well, they're going to use a different stamp, but they're still going to hand stamp the document. And as we saw earlier, it's just the words are different. As far as AM or PM or what else would be on this stamp. Okay, wonderful. I think that was really about all I had to say today. That a couple of people went down and tried some things, and it didn't go quite the way we want it, that's just the way this is. It hardly ever goes the way you want it, but we learn things from it. We move ahead, and we'll go to the next step, which is to try to get the post office to give us a remedy. And because we want to know. And again, if you can, please do donate. Send it by PayPal, ashley@luskey@gmail.com, or to me by snail mail at an address that really isn't mine, but you're putting it on the envelope. No problem. Rob Ryder, Quarter Record, AOL.com. If you sign up to Rob Quarter Record at WordPress.com, if I do a video, you'll get a link that I've done, and you'll find all my videos at YouTube at Rob Ryder with 3 B's. And if you need to call me, you can. But I'm not always here, don't always answer, and I don't know when I'll call you back. But I usually do call people back, right? If 1,000 people call me, well, that'll come to an end. So this is really for doers that don't need to be handheld, right? Let's go get some things done and point out to them that, hey, upon evidence satisfactory to the Postal Service that any of this other stuff has happened, they broke these laws, well, then the post office has got to investigate. And the examples of that are things like this. Right? That wasn't sent to me. Rytlewski Robert A. I don't know who he is. Robert A. Rytlewski. I don't know who he is. Rytlewski/Robert/Allen/ I don't know who he is. But what we need to do is we need to put our name properly on everything. When you see something in parentheses where they're asking for your name and they want it backwards, I would cross that out. I would only ever put my name the proper way and say, if you guys want to put it in your system different, that's up to you. But you asked me for my name, and this is my name. I only have one name. It's Robert Allen Rytlewski. Any other name is a fictitious entity, and I won't accept the mail. I'll file a complaint. Right? Now, an interesting thing about the utilities is, on the back, you can change your information, right? Because they're sending it to Robert A., and I can say, well, that's not me, it's Robert Allen. But I don't know what my street and number is. And as soon as you get that, you just start changing it to every place that sends you a bill, to anybody, anywhere. Change your address. Hopefully that'll be the next video, is how we did that. Lord willing. Okay, y'all have a great day, and enjoy your Sunday. We'll see ya.